For this tutorial, we're going to recreate the Melissa Oak sign using Artcam's new 2010 layout and functionality. We're going to start by opening a new model. We're going to give it a height of 20 inches and a width of 42. First thing we want to do is import some vectors. To do this, we're going to right-click on the vectors on the project tree and select Import. Select border.eps and click Open. Now we need to fillet this corner. Select our fillet vectors function, give it a radius of 1.5, and pick the two edges in the corner we want to fillet. We can now close this function. Now let's go into node editing by pressing N on the keyboard and smooth out these two nodes. We'll select them both and hit S on the keyboard to smooth them. We're now going to mirror these vectors to make a full border. So we come up here and select our mirror vectors function. I'm going to mirror it to the right, then mirror it again to the bottom, and then to the left. This gives us the full border. We can now close this function. Go to our select mode and box select all of our vectors, and we will join them together to make one vector using the join multiple vectors function. Keep the default tolerance and select join. We can now close this function. Notice it is all one vector. For the next step, we're going to transform these vectors by pressing T on the keyboard twice. We're going to give this vector a new height, but we want the width to stay at 36 inches. So let's uncheck link width and height, and then change the height to 14 inches and hit apply. We will go back to our select mode and center this vector on the page by pressing F9. Now we want to offset this to give us the second vector we need for our border. Select our offset vectors function. We're going to offset a distance of 1 inch. We're going to go inwards and sharp. Click Offset and close this function. We have completed the border of our sign. Let's continue on by making the details inside the sign. We will go to our Create Text function so we can create the name Melissa. In this step, we're going to only make the M. We're going to set the size to 4.75 inches with the font set as Georgia and set to bold. Now select on the graphics window and type a capital M. Go to our Tool Settings tab and click Done. Now we want to transform the M to an exact location. To do this, we're going to use our Transform Vectors function again by pressing T on the keyboard twice. Now we will enter an X location of 8.25 inches and a Y location of 11.25. Now that we've done this, click Apply. We can now finish the rest of Melissa. Go back to our Create Text function, change the size of the text to 4 inches, and finish typing Melissa. Then click Done. With the text still selected, open the envelope distortion function. We are now going to put the 4 outside nodes in an exact location. To do this, right-click on the node and go to Properties. We will start with this bottom right one. We're going to put it at 28.5 for X and 11 for Y. Click OK, and it's going to move the node exactly where we want. We'll now move the top right node. We're going to use the same X location of 28.5 and a Y location of 15.5. Now we'll do the lower left. We'll put it at an X location of 11.5 with a Y location of 9.5. And last, we'll move the upper left corner, again using 11.5 for X and 14 for Y. Now let's add a couple more nodes in the middle of the text to give it more shape. First, let's make sure we are in Edit Distortion Envelope nodes, and we'll insert the nodes between the two S's by holding our cursor where we want it and pressing I on the keyboard. Let's put these two nodes in an exact location. We want the top one at an X location of 22 and a Y location of 16. We'll click OK. We'll put the bottom one at the same X location of 22 and the Y location at 11.5 and click OK. Now that we have the text looking the way we want, let's go back to the envelope distortion settings and select Finish. Click somewhere on the screen so that the text is no longer selected. Now we can go back to our Create Text function, and we can continue to make the rest of the text. For this, we need to change our font size back to 4.75 inches. Check the spacing of the text, and click on the graphics window. Type a capital O, and go back and click Done. Again, we will press T on the keyboard twice to use the Transform Vectors function and put the O in an exact location. We will locate this at an X of 23.25 inches and a Y of 8.125 inches. Then we'll click Apply. We can now make the rest of Oaks. We'll select the Create Text function, and we're going to change the font size to 4 inches. Click on the graphics window and type AKS. Go to the Tool Settings tab and click Done. Now we need to align this text to the bottom of the O. To do this, I'm going to bring down a guideline. Now I'll align Oaks to this guideline. If I need to adjust it a little bit, I'll use the arrows on my keyboard to move it up or down. Once I have it where we want it, click on the graphics window to deselect the text. Now let's move our guideline out of the way. The next step is to make some mounting holes on the 4 corners of the sign. We're going to select our Circle Vectors function, and we're going to make the first hole with an exact location. We're going to use an X location of 4 inches and a Y location of 15.75 inches. Next, we want to make sure diameter is selected and enter a diameter of 1/4 inch. Click on Preview. We can see that it's where we want. So now let's click on our graphics window to close the Tool Settings tab and click on our Select function so that we can select the vector we just created. We're now going to use a Block Copy Rotate function to copy this around the sign. Make sure to set to Block Copy, distances or gaps, and we're going to give it an X gap of 34 inches with a number of columns 2, a Y gap of 11.25 inches, and a number of rows 2. Verify the arrows are going the correct direction and click Apply. We can now close this function. Now for the last thing, we're going to import another set of vectors. Right-click on Vectors in the project tree and select Import. Select the acorn.eps vectors and click Open. This completes the Melissa Oaks tutorial. If you have any questions, please contact Artcam support or your reseller. Thank you.